Okay, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of On Point EDC. We have a very cool video for you today where we're going to be reviewing the new FR flipper from Boker Plus. You can see it here right next to the Urban Trapper, which we've reviewed in the past, which reviewed pretty well. I'd say it got pretty high marks, and basically this is kind of a new evolution of that particular line, and I gotta say I'm really impressed, and I think they've actually outdone themselves even in comparison to the Urban Trapper, which I liked very much. So let's go ahead and zoom out a bit and get the customary wristwatch check out of the way. Today we have a very nice JDM, or Japanese Domestic Market model, from the Seiko Presage line. It's a very clean and classic little pilot's watch in the SRPB 07. So as you can see, has this really cool kettle shaped case there. I will be posting a review for this very soon, and in case you're wondering, the strap that's on there is actually from Haveston Watch Straps. They're a brand new strap company, and I have to say they definitely have really impressed me with their quality of strap in this really nice kind of reworked idea of a military kind of NATO style strap. So really nice, looking forward to it. Let me kind of get it down here so you can get a better idea of kind of scale on wrist. This is actually a 41 millimeter by about 11. Definitely keep an eye out. Full review coming soon. All right, let's go ahead and get back to the knives. Now, a little bit about Boker. So they were founded in 1869, really old company. Now that's their parent company, Boker Knives, right? They're German in origin. Boker Plus, that line is manufactured mostly out of Taiwan and China. Now their market segment is kind of in that entry level to mid-range, very high value sweet spot. As you'll see kind of from some of the features that are on these knives that we'll cover today. If I was to categorize this type of knife as far as kind of key features and design language, I'd say it would probably fall into the genre of a kind of a modern gentleman's folding knife, because it's very, you know, sleek and understated. You know, it has those nice classy handles right there on the inserts for the scales. So I gotta say, very impressed. So this is the Brad Zinker FR flipper, and this is in Cocobolo wood for the handle there. As you can see, really nice finish on that blade, great blade shape, nice crowned spine there, rounded off very, very nicely. And as we had with the Urban Trapper, we have really great snappy flipping action, and now you have it, and I mean what I see as an even better size. So as you can see, it's quite a bit shorter. I mean, let's kind of compare it, maybe pivot to pivot. It's a little bit shorter on the blade, a little bit shorter on the handle, and basically you combine that together and you get really a whole new feeling knife. I actually believe there's a third variant out now that's shorter, like the FR flipper, but basically still has the thinner silhouette like the Urban Trapper. So really interested to see that. You know, hopefully I'll get that in for review, but I gotta say, I think these two, as far as different ends of the spectrum, I think they really hit their points. I think for me, one of the only things that was a little, I'd say, that I could probably complain about this knife was it did feel a little bit petite, and a lot of that does have to do with the length and of course the width. So because it is longer and more slender, it definitely, you know, doesn't feel like any type of hard used knife, which I don't think it was intended for, so I think that's fine. You know, it definitely has that very old school trapper profile, but yeah, I mean, it definitely is very thin. So it, you know, it just doesn't have necessarily that same, I guess, kind of stoutness that you find here. So even folded up, as you can see, very nice. You know, the thickness is very similar. So But let's go ahead and put away the Urban Trapper and focus on this new model here in the FR Flipper. So of course this is full titanium. Basically it's a titanium frame lock that has these really cool inserts here kind of on the outer exterior for the Cocobolo, which is really nice and I think adds a nice touch of class to the carry. And I think the tone on the wood is also really versatile too, just as far as aesthetics go. Now the retail price for these is about only 135 bucks about. So, and then of course the street price you can get them for under 90. So I mean this is a really nice value considering, you know, you've got the titanium frame lock, you know, a deep carry pocket clip, Cocobolo wood inserts, and then the blade steel isn't too shabby. Of course it's VG10, which I'm a big fan of on the channel. You know, to me VG10 is kind of, you know, it's right in that same range when I think of something like an S30V or an S35 as kind of being a really well-rounded steel. And you know, it's just a notch down. So S30V is probably, you know, fours across the board about, you know, M390 would probably be 5s across the board. I would think of, you know, VG10 as kind of one of those steels that's, you know, just one step down, you know, maybe 3s and 4s across the board. You know, it's not, it definitely takes an edge, but it also retains an edge pretty good. So, you know, I've been really happy with my VG10 knives, and I think that it's definitely a nice steel. And if it wasn't for some of the super steels that were released, you know, I think VG10 would still be a very viable option. So I think really, I'd say a quality knife should at least be VG10 if it wants, you know, to really get my money, because I think it's really just a great blade steel. So as you can see, it has a really nice drop point profile there on the blade, and then as we covered earlier, you know, it does have a nice crowned spine, nice and rounded off, which is great. And then of course the Cocobolo wood scales. Now we flashed the dimensions across the screen earlier in the review right at the beginning, but I will touch on a couple of the stats again. So the overall length is going to be right at 6.5 inches. The blade length is going to be just under 3 at 2.875. The close length, 3.5 inches, which I think is a really nice size. So that's basically the handle length, and you know, my medium-sized hand, I think it fits it well, and you know, my fingers don't really wander. It has, I think, a good shape to it as well. The weight is really outstanding at just under 2 ounces at 1.96 ounces. So really nice and light, and a lot of that has to do with, of course, the wood's very light, but underneath here, you know, you can see that they're very thin, but not only are they thin, they actually are milled out. There's basically relief holes that are inside there, which do add to the lightness, which is really nice. Now in hand, it definitely has very slim ergonomics, but I feel that because it is a bit thicker in this profile and the width, it actually gives you a little bit more to grip, and it actually, to me, feels like you can just lock in and just get a little bit more purchase on that when you're holding it, which is really, really nice, and definitely very comfortable in hand. You know, there's really no hot spots. I think this clip here has done quite a nice job. You know, I think it fits into the hand nicely. You know, of course you can see there's kind of that meat there that's inside of your palm, and the clip really finds a way of, you know, filling into those grooves really nicely, as you can see right there. So it doesn't rest in any odd places, at least not for my hand. So very nice. Now the action is very smooth and quick as far as open and close. You know, of course on the close you have to defeat that detent ball, so you know, it'll take you to about here, then you hit the ball, give it a little pressure, and it flips down, kind of like here, right? You're getting ready to light switch that, and you give it a little bit of pressure. Once it defeats the ball, it comes snapping out. So that's definitely something that's a little bit different as far as versus the way the Urban Trapper would kind of flip and open. I think it had a bit of a weaker detent, so when you bring it down, you know, you could really, it wouldn't necessarily jump down, you know, if you could try to make it jump. But basically, when you're trying to close it, it's more of a, like the detent's already right there, right? So there's not much angle on it. Then you hit it, and by then you're not really building up much pressure to get that, you know, that blade swinging again. Here, you get a little bit of time and you can knock that thing down, and I really like the way that feels. And one of the reasons why that feels so good is because it does have that IKBS bearing pivot system, which is really, really great. Now in pocket, it has a nice slim footprint, you know, it's decent deep carry pocket clip, you know, it's not terrible, it's not great, you know, it's definitely perfectly good. And I think design wise, you know, this is not too much to complain about. Of course, it's a little strange with this. It's basically retaining the same pocket clip from the Urban Trapper there. So I think actually it probably looks a little bit better on here because it is a little bit wider. So you know, nothing to write home about, but hey, you don't have to buy a deep carry pocket clip because it comes with one, which is nice. And of course the finishing all matches as well, which is really good. So as far as model variants go, you know, there's various scale materials. There's a G10, you know, that'll have the G10 inserts on the scales, carbon fiber. Then there's also, you know, a scaleless model, which is just the TI scales. Will be a little bit thicker on the inside here, basically, and then you just wouldn't have these guys on the outside. So that one, of course, would be the lightest model. Now, as far as comparable options go, I think in the price range, you're not going to be, you know, it'll be pretty hard pressed to find any. But as far as just size wise and what a similar carry and kind of footprint in your hand and in your pocket, you know, let's go ahead and start out with, you know, kind of the gold standard and smaller pocket knives. You got the Sebenza. This happens to be an Insingo knife art edition, but as you can see, the size is not too different. Let's go ahead and make sure we get them side by side lengthwise, so we don't have any forced perspective playing tricks on anyone here. So as you can see, the size very close, and then the blade width itself, ooh, a little dusty there, is, you know, very similar. Of course, different profile. That Insingo blade definitely has a lot more tricks to it, but you know, really in the hand, they feel very similar. Of course, this one's gonna feel a lot more higher quality, but I mean, just kind of, I guess, the silhouette wise in your hand, they're definitely very close. So that's one to kind of think about as far as size goes. Maybe you have this guy, you love it, you don't want to mess it up, and you want a beater. This could be your option. And then of course, also kind of a modern gentleman's knife. Here we have the Lion Steel TRE with the M390 blade. Of course, this is going to cost a lot more, but as you can see, very similar footprint, and you know, it actually has a shorter and kind of more stout handle, which I think makes that blade visually look a little bit more elongated, and not feel as short as the TRE can feel. I think when you see pictures of the TRE, I think it really has the proportions to where this would be really, really nice, and just if it was one size larger. Not a full size, but basically kind of that sweet spot. I'd say that size of, let's say like a Kaiser Ursa Minor size frame, you know, or Gemini size. I think this thing would be perfect. I think as it is, it's a little bit small, but it does have really nice, of course, build quality, ergonomics. But this guy is meant to be a couple of different types of deployment methods. So not just a flipper, but you know, there's also a thumb stud, or you could also do it by hand. And because it allows you to do that, it doesn't have as strong as a detent. So flipping wise, although it's very smooth because of the bearing system it has, it's not going to flip as good as this guy right here. So this guy is just the FR flipper. And you know, one thing I will say is it does have, you know, a little bit of lock stick, which I had on my Urban Trapper, broken over time. I haven't been carrying this quite as much, just because, you know, when I got the Urban Trapper, I had a lot less knives. Here I have this one, and I have just a lot of other ones that I carry, so I haven't been able to break it in quite as much. But another great comparison, kind of my favorite small, you know, knife would be the Kaiser Intrepid, the mini Intrepid. Well, let me wipe the dust off of that. Sorry about that, guys. And, you know, size-wise, I think these are also very comparable. As you can see there, very, very similar size and profile. Now, also, maybe you carry, you know, a mini Intrepid, you know, and it really has everything that you need in a knife. I mean, this thing is gorgeous, beautifully made, limited. So I mean, it really has it all. So maybe you want to take care of it, you know. You don't want to wear it out, or you know, have it picking up too many snail trails or anything from riding in your pocket as a daily carry. You know, this could really be a great daily carry for you if, you know, that's one of your concerns. I know some people, you know, they pick up knives as users. You know, other people are more collectors. I feel I'm somewhere kind of in the middle. You know, I do use my knives, but I also kind of collect them, and I try to keep them, you know, in good shape. And I think one of the reasons why they stay in, you know, fairly good shape is because I do rotate them, you know, versus if I just had one knife I carried every day, you know, the wear would definitely be a lot faster. So, you know, I think these could pair pretty well together. You know, if you wanted to have one, you know, kind of higher end carry, and then one really nice budget carry. I mean, this doesn't feel like a budget knife at all, except for how it feels when it comes to how it's going to hit your pocket. When you buy this guy. I mean, really, if you can afford any decent knife, you can afford this one. And I gotta say, I highly recommend it. You know, if you're just crazy about lock stick, you know, and that's gonna bother you, I mean, you can hear that. So if you're just like, if lock stick is something that just like drives you mad, you might not want to try this guy out. But if you know, if you're a big fan of that flipping action though, and that open, and you want a smooth shut, I mean, this thing is nice. For the money, I mean, this is incredible. So let's go ahead and I guess maybe get all these guys out. As you can see here, kind of just get a look at them all together there. Okay, that's kind of where they fall. And let's start wrapping this video up. So, you know, definitely a lot of great company as far as the size of this knife. You know, to me, it's not too small, definitely not too large. It really has that really EDC-able size to it, you know, and great looks, very handsome, even folded. It's not one where, you know, you have to have it flipped out to really be able to appreciate it. It has a very svelte and handsome handle scale, as you can see. The only type of, you know, to me, it's an improved Urban Trapper, you know, but the only thing, you know, it's kind of a problem also for the Urban Trapper was when you have it in your pocket, right? And then your hand has to negotiate past it to get something in your pocket, right? It's gonna be in the back of your pocket, let's say, and your hand goes in, you know, this isn't the greatest feeling for it to rub against. So, I mean, that can kind of be an issue. But other than that, I mean, I think it's fine, because actually when it comes in, it'll actually swing out at a bit of an angle, and it's gonna be a little bit easier to get your hand navigate past it. But of course, you know, it doesn't have that same, you know, right here, that's, there was some more thought that came into that, right? Or of course the Kaiser hand's gonna slide right past that, and then, you know, beautiful Sebenza, of course, everything, all these great, there's not a hard edge to catch anyway. So that's probably my only little, you know, I could say they could probably improve it, but I mean, I think because of the shape and the silhouette, it just looks so good as is. I feel like if they broke that line, which they kind of tried to do with the Urban Trapper, I think if they clip that, I feel like it might look a little bit too narrow in comparison, at least while open, to that really more meaty, you know, that blade silhouette. So Thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. And definitely stay tuned for more reviews. Thanks, guys. Bye.